All right, welcome to day 3 of Unit 4. Absolutism in England is our topic for this video. So actually, speaking of video, we are going to break this down into 2, maybe even 3 videos because there's just so much we have to talk about when we talk about the absolutism that occurs in England. So let's not waste any more time. Let's just jump right on into it. So England is not like the other countries that we've talked about. The English have had certain freedoms that people in other countries in Europe have not had at this point in time. So in your notes, you're going to list 4 of them in the first box. The first one is that they have jury trials. They actually have trials of or groups of their peers at trials that help make decisions on whether or not somebody is guilty or not guilty and what the punishment should be. The second thing, I know you've heard of this before, maybe way back in, I don't know, 3rd, 4th grade, but it's a really cool, really super important document. They have the Magna Carta. And what the Magna Carta does, it basically states that the king has to follow the rules and the laws just like everybody else does. Okay? So you're not any better than us. You still have to follow the rules. Just because you're in charge of the country doesn't mean you get to do whatever you want and not, have any consequences if you break a rule. So, speaking of laws, they also have common law, meaning that laws and the consequences of breaking those laws are consistent for all English citizens. It doesn't matter what social class you're in. It doesn't matter what part of the country you live in. If you are an English citizen and you break the rules or the laws, these are going to be the consequences for everybody, okay? And the last freedom that the English have had that is that they've had Parliament. So Parliament is a 2-house legislature used by England. They still have it to this day. It's used by England to make laws and make sure the country functions as it should. So even though the kings and queens of England want to be absolute rulers, they have to figure out a way to cooperate with Parliament. Because Parliament is definitely not something just to be seen and not heard. Okay, it is a legitimate part of the English government. So let's talk about Elizabeth I. She ruled from 1588 until 1603. She was nicknamed the Virgin Queen, and this is because she never got married. She's known for having said, "I will have one mistress, England, and no master." Well, what is she talking about? Okay, so what she's basically saying is that she was so completely devoted to England that she would not be distracted by any love interest or by having children or anything of that nature. She's dedicated to ruling England, and she truly cares about her fellow countrymen. She came to rule England because her father was Henry VIII. Yes, the same guy that left the Catholic Church and started the Anglican Church of England, or the Church of England. Okay, and her mother was Anne Boleyn, who unfortunately was one of the many wives that was decapitated or executed by Henry VIII because she didn't give him a male heir. So that's who mom and dad were. Okay, so that's how she comes to power. So she does a few things that are going to end up strengthening the power of the monarchy. The first thing that she does, and you already know this. We've already talked about it a couple of times, I think. She led England to defeat the Spanish Armada. Okay, so here's a little painting of the Spanish Armada. You've got to remember, at this point in time, England did not have the greatest navy in the world, so for them to have defeated Spain, it was a really big deal. Okay, she also realizes that she recognizes that it is because of the consent of the people, the citizens of England, that ultimately is who gave her power. Okay, she realizes that if the people didn't acknowledge that yes, she was the Queen of England, then it would have been difficult for her to accomplish anything at all politically. Okay, so while she knows she has to have the approval of the people, she's also smart in that she knows that she has to work well with Parliament. And she was able to very skillfully work with Parliament. She knew how to consult Parliament and manipulate them, but not necessarily in a negative way, to get what it was that she wanted. Okay, so remember that she also was Anglican. Okay, her dad had started the Anglican Church of England, and she followed in his footsteps. So she also controlled the Anglican Church and strengthened Protestantism by making it the official church of England. Okay, so I know you've heard me mention a couple of different dynasties over the past few days. We've talked about the Romanovs. We've talked about the Bourbon dynasty. Well, Elizabeth is no exception. She is also part of a dynasty. She is the last of the Tudors, Tudor, the Tudor dynasty, Tudor. She's the last of the Tudor dynasty to rule England. So you remember that she was the Virgin Queen, yes? Well, when she dies, she leaves no heir to the throne. So this is a problem. We don't have anybody left to take over the throne. So here's your cliffhanger for your next video. Who is it that's going to come to rule England now that Elizabeth has died? You'll find out in video 2. See you there.